The next entry into the Bob Gallico songbook is not a parody, rather it's an original set of lyrics set to a piece of music designed for radio station use exclusively for mood music purposes. The genesis of the piece was Nova's so-called Funny Bubbles competition in 1983. DECLAN MEEHAN had been called to work on London's Capital Radio, and John Clarke had taken over the breakfast show. During that time, CHRIS CARY came up with the bubble competition. And the idea was that I would be telling John Clarke terrible jokes. To promote it, Dublin cartoonist Terry Williers drew cartoons of our heads with empty speech bubbles over them. And these appeared on a number of billboards around Dublin with words to the effect of, "What did Bob Gallico say to John Clarke?" Now, the competition was obviously also promoted on Nova. Listeners were to send in their jokes, and eventually the 12 best, chosen by a panel of DJs, would go into a draw. First prize was a new Opel Corsa. Then there were runners-up cash prizes from the total prize pool of £10,000. Well, near to the time of the prize draw night, I came up with the song to be played at the drawing event and then subsequently on Nova. I found the piece of music mentioned earlier in the sound effects library. It was an old vaudeville-type instrumental number, which I immediately knew would fit the bill. So I wrote the lyrics and also immediately knew who I wanted to record it with, the wonderful Tony Allen. Of the 4 musical offerings during my days in 80s radio, this was and remains my favorite, and I dedicate it with gratitude to Tony Allen. The Funny Bubble Song.
Radio Nova, playing all over Dublin, now.
Hey, John, did you hear about the guy who went into the Gresham looking for a suite with a view?
No, Bob. What happened?
They gave him a polo mint.
They put some empty bubbles on the billboards
Above the heads of me and Johnny Clarke. And everybody wondered what the game was.
4 weeks CHRIS CARY kept you in the dark.
To John, what did I say? You heard it every night and day.
It drove you mad from house to castle bar.
Then Chris revealed his plan. Some lucky Nova fan would drive away a brand new Opel car. With bubbles, funny bubbles, they came floating in.
And some were a sin.
They went in the bin.
There were the funny ones, the punny ones.
Some made us go green.
And some of them were totally obscene.
There were sacks full of cracks full of slags on my nags.
Some ancient old gags
from Trinity rags.
And there were even some blanks.
We got the hint, thanks.
Those funny bubbles all full of hot air.
I got a new pair of glasses from the Optimist today.
Don't you mean an optician?
No, Optimist. He thinks he'll get paid for them.
And so the time arrived to pick some winners from bubbles that came in from far and wide. 12 finalists, their choice of story spinners. The panel of DJs had to decide. For Greg and Tony and the Haysh, it was no easy job. Through hundreds of those things they had to plow.
They labored through the day.
Then we heard Colin say, "Please take those chains off, Chris, we've got them now."
12 bubbles, good bubbles, the best of the lot. 12 finalists you've got. They've hit the jackpot. They filled some dead air, and nearly 10 grand they share in Bublin, Dublin, and Louth and Kildare. Oh, it's finally done, so thanks everyone for funny bubbles. Those bubbles are fun.
The last of my 4 offerings started out as an embarrassment. I never originally intended for it to come into being. It happened when I had joined Nova's successor, Energy 103. The evening news magazine, Dublin Today, was asked by Cathedral Studios in Christchurch to send a volunteer to try out their new system, whereby the vocals on a record could be eliminated and you could sing along to the backing track. Early karaoke. Well, because of my so-called singing history with Nova, I was volunteered as the guinea pig. From the list of songs provided, I chose, for whatever reason, Rick Astley's recording of the 1957 Nat King Cole hit When I Fall in Love. The cringe-making effort was duly aired on Dublin Today. It was less Astley, more like ghastly. It was so awful I just couldn't leave it like that. And so Rick Ghastly was born. With the invaluable aid of my current breakfast show partner at the time, the wonderfully talented Pat Courtney, the existing version was made, complete with a middle bit featuring Pettigrew and Carruthers, the true old residents of the Dorkington Club for Retired Military Gentlemen. And thankfully, this is the only version in existence today. At least, I hope it is. When I Fall in Love by Rick Gastley.
Ladies and gentlemen, we recommend that during the playing of this record, domestic pets should be removed from the room, as it is liable to cause them great distress. Thank you.
When I fall in love, it will be forever, or I'll never fall in love. In a restless world like this is, love is ended before it's begun, and too many moonlight kisses seem to cool in the warmth of the sun. When I give my heart, it will be completely, or I'll never give my heart.
Shut up.
And the moment I can feel that you feel that way too.
He's just so hunky.
Is when I fall in love with you.
What do you think of it, Pettigrew?
Reminds me of the time the regiment came down with dysentery, Carruthers. Men were all whimpering rather like that. Do you think he's trying to make a living out of it?
I certainly hope not. The unemployment figures are quite high enough as it is.
Yes.
Brandy, Pettigrew?
Yes, better make it a double.
And the moment I can feel that you feel that way too, is when I fall in love with you.
I hate critics.
Broadcasting 24/7 to the Irish community, radioirish.com.